everybody! This is Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert, a NASCAR and racing podcast. 2019 was the last time before this past weekend that NASCAR raced at the 1.5 miles of Chicagoland Speedway. Wish the wait wasn't this long, but it was worth it. ARCA would be ready to put on a show and kick things into gear Friday night. Then the O'Reilly Series would be throwing it down on Saturday. Of course, Sunday night, all eyes would be on the Cup Series as they would go for 400 miles. Past Chicagoland Cup winners of Denny Hamlin, Alex Bowman, and Brad Keselowski give it their all as they try to return to victory lane. The rest of the field will be eyeing the trophy as well. Yellow flag, green flag, discussions with Dave, NASCAR history time, paint scheme of the week, interview with Ben Maier, tire diaries for Atlanta and Lime Rock, plus the drivers to look out for both those races, and predictions, and so much more on this episode of Splash of Gas. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Now for the ARCA Series recap from Chicagoland. After qualifying, Thomas Annunziata would be the fastest and win the pole. Him and Daniel Dye take the field to green, and Annunziata leads early. Second yellow of the race on lap 25 as William Sawalich, one of the race's contenders, hits the wall, ending his day early. Annunziata and Laney Bice restart and battle door to door. A lap later, Bice's teammate of Connor Mozak would take the top spot after going 3 wide. Once the halfway break concluded, Connor Mozak and Bice restart with 42 to go. Mozak again to the lead. Could Laney reel him in? Rest of the race would stay green, and Connor Mozak is able to hold off a charging Laney Bice and the 9 of Huffman on to victory lane. Congratulations to the 28 team and Connor. Now for trivia question time. This episode's question is: NASCAR O'Reilly Series and Cup Series heads to Atlanta this upcoming weekend for the second time this year. NASCAR started racing out in Hampton, Georgia at AMS back in 1960. The first race, held in July of '60, was won by Fireball Roberts. NASCAR returned a few months later that season in October. Who won the second race in Atlanta in October of 1960? Answer coming at the end. Now for the O'Reilly Series recap from Chicagoland. O'Reilly would have their qualifying rained out, and they would start based off the metric. After a long rain delay, Connor Zilich and Brett Cruz would bring the field to green for a July 4th special. Connor quickly claims the top spot and leads. The stage would stay completely green and be won by Zilich. Jesse Love followed by Corey Day for second and third. Heartbreak for Zilich under the yellow as he comes to a stop with reported lost fuel pressure. Chase Elliott and Jesse Love bring the field to green for the middle stage. Elliott clears and leads, starting to collect a several-second lead on Love. Chase Elliott wins stage 2. Taylor Gray and Jesse Love restart for the third and final stage. Chase Elliott surges from the second row and leads. Him and Love exchange the lead, with Elliott again leading. Then Taylor Gray would take over the lead from Chase. Yellows on lap 133 and on 156 would be both for Connor Zilich, unfortunately. Ryan Sieg and Brandon Jones restart with 37 to go. Jones leads with Elliott up to second. Then another yellow 2 laps later after teammates of Brett Cruz and William Sawalich make contact. Brandon Jones and Taylor Gray restart with 29 laps to go. Gray leads, but they wreck again with 16 to go. Gray and Jones restart. Gray drops as Chase Elliott takes the lead. Jones in second. They wreck with 5 laps to go, pushing the race into overtime. Chase Elliott and Brandon Jones restart for the 2-lap OT shootout. Both go side by side on the first lap of overtime, with Jones clearing off turn 4. Final lap, Elliott brushes the safer barrier, giving it his all on the final lap. Brandon Jones wins the O'Reilly Series race as NASCAR returns to Chicagoland. Now for the Cup Series race recap from Chicagoland. Cup Series will be ready for action on Sunday evening out in Joliet, Illinois. After qualifying, Denny Hamlin would win the pole, followed by Kyle Larson. The two of them would bring the field to green. They wreck on lap 1 as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and John Hunter Nemechek trigger a wreck that would send Ryan Preece and Connor Zilisch into the wall. Another tough break for the young Zilisch. More on that on Discussions with Dave. Larson clears Hamlin on the restart, but Denny repays the favor, retaking the lead from Larson 12 laps later. Another yellow this time on lap 32 has Carson Hocevar and Zane Smith touch and go spinning. Larson clears on the restart, and we'll be talking about this next wreck on Discussions with Dave as well. On lap 48, after contact from Shane Van Gisbergen, Austin Hill wrecks, getting a good amount of damage to the back of his 33. Many pit under this yellow. Austin Cindric and Riley Herbst stay out and restart up front. Cindric goes out to the lead, but it wouldn't last long as William Byron would pass Austin for the lead on lap 69. William Byron wins the first stage. Byron and Bubba Wallace restart for stage 2. 4 laps in, Kyle Larson spins in the grass from the 3rd spot. Bubba then takes the lead off the following restart. On lap 125, Chase Briscoe would take over the top spot. Chase would pit from the lead 4 laps later. Then a yellow on lap 134 for fluid on the track. William Byron and Chase Briscoe then restart. Willie B goes back to the lead. Rest of the second stage stays green, and stage 2 is won by William Byron. Byron and Briscoe restart for the final stage. Byron again to the lead. He would pit from the top spot on lap 216. 6 laps later, the pit cycle would be completed, and now Chase Briscoe would be leading with Byron in second. With 23 laps to go, Byron would cut down Briscoe's lead to less than a second. Then, 10 laps remaining, Christopher Bell would pass William Byron for second. 5 laps remaining, Bell pulls within a half second of his teammate in Briscoe. 2 laps remaining, Bell is in within 2 car lengths. Could Christopher make the pass? In the end, no, he could not. And Chase Briscoe would hold off Christopher Bell en route to Briscoe's first victory in 2026. Congratulations to that 19 team and, of course, Chase. Quick look back at the predictions we made for Chicagoland. ARCA, I went with William Swalich. His day ends with him in the wall. O'Reilly Series, I went with Allgaier. He finishes 6th. Cup, I tapped Ryan Blaney. He brings home the 12 P7. Yellow flag, green flag ARCA. Laney Bice and Landon S. Huffman both showed out. Laney finishes 2nd and Huffman 3rd. Great showing by those 2 young drivers. Yellow flag O'Reilly. Tough weekend in general for William Swalich. Realistically has chances to win in both ARCA and O'Reilly. Hits the wall in ARCA after having a tire go down after contact with Andy J. And then just a tough day the following night in the O'Reilly Series. Comes back with a P29 finish in that one. Green flag, O'Reilly veteran Brandon Jones flexes his muscle at the end in Chicagoland after a long night with the long delay before the race even goes green. Yellow flag, Cup. Poor Connor Zilic. He just can't buy a break. I really had to pinch myself when I saw him wreck on lap 1 out there in Chicagoland. At some point, when is the bad luck and bad breaks going to stop? Because if you look at that one on Sunday, really wasn't his doing. And more on that on Discussions with Dave. Green Flag Cup. Toyotas, they figured something out. Green flag to them, just like the last one. More on that on DWD. Now, for Discussions with Dave, part 1 for this episode. Return to Chicagoland. As mentioned, it's been since 2019 since NASCAR has ran at the 1.5-mile track in Joliet, Illinois. When Chicagoland was back on the schedule for this season, I was excited. Great track, and we've talked about the pros and cons, ups and downs of racing the street course in the streets of Chicago, downtown, which we saw for 3 years. And as I've said, the last year they had the races there, I think was the best quality of racing. Nonetheless, a couple races ago at the Naval Base Coronado was awesome, and that probably topped the street racing in downtown Chicago. When I saw the schedule at Chicagoland on the map, actually surprised me when I started doing the coverage for this episode that it was, I couldn't believe it's been since 2019 since NASCAR ran at Chicagoland. Quick side story, I remember start of summer 2019, did a road trip with my uncle cross country. And when we were driving back, I was actually going to Pocono the following day. And 2 days before that, we drove past Chicagoland. And that was 2019. And they had everything set up, saw the big billboards for the race later that year out there. And I just couldn't believe it's been that long. But nonetheless, NASCAR came back and they made the right decision to do so. As I was saying last episode, really a lot of discussion on what that track is going to be like. To begin with, Chicagoland has had a lot of bumps, and with the track of sitting for 7 years, baking in the sun in the summers, soaking in all the cold in the winters, contraction, expansion of that track, the surface was definitely going to be more brittle and worn since the last time they raced there in 2019. Of course, raised a lot of questions about tire wear and other things, and which lanes would be the fastest, and where we would see runs and drivers race as these races went on, right? And between ARCA, O'Reilly, and then of course the Cup Series race coming down to the closing laps, just was great, classic, 1.5-mile intermediate racing. Wasn't one race was just good. Yes, Connor Mozak, beat Laney Bice a little bit over 2 seconds. Still very competitive and exciting ARCA race. Really a great little taste test for the weekend to come. O'Reilly goes into overtime. Solid finish. Cup, stage 1 had its fair share of wrecks there and controversies, as we'll get farther into DWD. But 2 thumbs up to Chicagoland. I'd give a third if I could. Really hope they're on the schedule and return for next year and years to come. I think it's a great stop to have on just not the Cup Series calendar, but ARCA and O'Reilly. Hope the trucks come there next year as well. As we just mentioned, Stage 1 had the fair share of fireworks. And in that stage, we see Shane Van Gisbergen get into the rear of Austin Hill. In Sonoma, we see a wreck at the front of the field. Austin Hill Shane Van Gisbergen bringing the field to green, Connor Zilisch behind the two of them. And I said this on the recap episode for San Diego. Post-race, SVG and Zilisch were both giving Austin Hill grief for triggering that wreck. And in all honesty, it's a good person to poke the finger at with his track record of triggering wrecks intentionally, not intentionally. This one, obviously not intentional. But going back to San Diego, SVG and Hill, I think were 50-50% responsible for causing that wreck. But Shane, of course, that's a huge opportunity race for him. And as I said last episode, I really think that could be the straw that losing those points in San Diego could cause him to miss out on making the chase, making the playoffs. So, understandably, he's frustrated at Austin Hill. He gets into the back of him, and Hill's team says, hey, that's payback. And RC, Richard Childress, came on the radio too and said, hey, that's payback. And Austin Hill mispronounces his name purposely, obviously. And so however you pronounce it, right? And post-race, Shane goes, I try to talk to him, but he just grumbles at me. You know, these are two hard-headed racers. And each are strong in their own ways, right? And sometimes racers are going to be racers, and this is a good feud to watch. Definitely not the end of this one, especially with a hard-working team like the 33 of Austin Hill. So we'll be paying attention to this. Wanted to mention it. We mentioned this in the recap and on Yellow Flag, Green Flag. Connor Zilisch, the rookie, the guy that, what was it? I believe it was 10, 11 races that he won on the O'Reilly Series last year. Of course, a ringer on the road courses. And we've seen that from his best finishes of the season, 14th in COTA. San Diego, we mentioned he gets in that wreck, unfortunately, and it's more of that bad luck. But the following weekend, Sonoma, his best finish of the year, which was P7. But, I mean, besides the top 15 at COTA at the beginning of the year, Phoenix, he does have the 18th at Darlington, but from that stretch of Phoenix to Talladega, Darlington is his only finish in the top 20. P16 in Texas, Watkins Glen, 20th, definitely underperformed. But from Charlotte to Chicagoland, the only finish in the top 10 was Sonoma. I mean, Charlotte 39th, 38th Nashville, 37th Michigan, 23rd Pocono, 37th San Diego. Bright spot Sonoma, as we mentioned, this past weekend Chicagoland, 38th. And Zilisch raced in the O'Reilly Series race in Chicagoland on Saturday night. And even in that one, Zilisch couldn't buy a wreck. And he's got veteran crew chief Rodney Childress. He's in Junior Motorsports Equipment. We've seen Connor win O'Reilly races already this year. And that's good for him, a young driver. Regardless of the series, I think seat time is going to cure a lot of things. It should be, right? But just Chicagoland was just tough for Zilisch. And with him being so young, Connor was, 12 the last time NASCAR raced in Chicagoland? So a new track, just adds insult to injury, obviously for the young rookie driver. But as we've seen from his media appearances, Connor is taking it like a champ, taking it on the chin. He's going to rebound. He's going to become a better driver from it. And all he can do is put his best foot forward. Last topic on Discussions with Dave, part 1 here. What have the Toyotas figured out? 19 point races in to the Cup season of 36 races. Toyotas have won a whopping 12 of 19 of those point races. Yes, the next gen car started in 2021. There's been a lot of time for all three manufacturers to extend their books. And just like the sport, throughout history, each team every year throughout the seasons and into the off season is working to get better. And you just like throughout the history of the sport and throughout seasons, right? You see teams go up, you see teams go down. You see Tyler Reddick win 3 races to start the year. In my mind, I'm like, dang, I don't think another driver's going to be able to win 3 races back to back like that the way the season's going. And I'm proved wrong. Denny Hamlin does that, going 3 in a row, getting the third of that 3 in Pocono, was there in person for that one. And you knew as the laps went down and Bell's gas was getting lower and lower, you knew that Denny was going to come and pass his teammate and win that one. Yes, of course, that's Denny's 8th win in Pocono. But the Toyotas have something figured out. And yes, you can see that from the on-track results. And yes, you got Joe Gibbs, you got 2311 leading the charge. But look at Legacy Motor Club. Eric Jones, John Hunter Nemechek. Those guys from the past season or two with Legacy are overperforming from their past results. Was listening to NASCAR's Sirius XM channel on the radio, and they had Brad Keselowski. The interviewer asked Keselowski, what do you think Ford is missing compared to the Toyotas that are obviously showing up right now? And Brad, in a really good, scientific, maybe not scientific, it's the best words, but a really good analytical response, Brad, kind of put it in layman's terms that, Ford is obviously putting a lot of resources into RFK, into Team Penske. But, Ford's number one team, to point fingers and resources, is Team Penske, right? And Brad was at Team Penske for a number of years. And, Brad just said, hey, it's, some, tough decision making. And, with my relationship with Team Penske, we have a great relationship with Ford and with them and with the partnership. But, there's some things that maybe I would run differently in different words that Brad used. And he said that Toyota right now, he really thinks, and, all 3 Toyota Cup teams are really working all together with Toyota, then getting the best product they can from their manufacturer. And of course, it's a competition. 2311 wants to win every weekend, and Joe Gibbs wants to win every weekend. And they both race Ford, Team Toyota, right? So there's still competition in it, but Toyota is really just hammering the top of the nail right now, race in and race out. Just was an interesting fact that, I don't know what's the fact, but opinion and kind of insight that Brad is seeing from the Ford camp, right? And just wanted to share that. Now for paint scheme of the week. We're doing another upcoming paint scheme, and that's going to be the 17 of Chris Buescher for Atlanta. A pretty cool one. They obviously have their sponsorship with Kroger. You got Kroger in partnership with Heinz tomato ketchup. You got a red primary color and white trim Heinz tomato ketchup with a nice looking cheeseburger on the side there with ketchup running off of it. I mean, if you think of America brands, Heinz going back to 1869, through and through an America staple. Heinz tomato ketchup is practically in every American's refrigerator. And really cool to see a great American brand like that be on the side of a NASCAR. That's awesome. Now, for NASCAR history time, Atlanta. We've gone over the 1992 Hooters 500 several times throughout the year when doing these segments for Atlanta. But it's just so awesome and such a part of the totem pole of NASCAR. I always enjoy sharing this. The 1992 Hooters 500 at Atlanta Motor Speedway remains one of the most iconic races in NASCAR Cup Series history, serving as a bridge between generations. This race marked the final start of seven-time champion, the King, Richard Petty, and also the Cup Series debut of future four-time champ, Jeff Gordon. The championship battle that day added even more drama as Davey Allison entered the finale among the title favorites before an early crash ended his hopes. Bill Elliott completed a season sweep at Atlanta, winning the race, but it was Alan Kulwicki who claimed the championship just by 10 points, becoming the first owner-driver in NASCAR's modern era to capture the Cup Series title. A great story about the Polish Prince in Kulwicki. 1996 season finale. The 1996 season finale at Atlanta Motor Speedway became a memorable day for one of NASCAR's most successful families, the Labontes. Bobby Labonte started from the Coors Light pole and drove to victory, while his older brother Terry finished the day by clinching his second NASCAR Cup Series championship. The brothers celebrated together in Victory Lane, creating one of the sport's most heartwarming moments as Bobby earned the race win and Terry secures the season title in the same unforgettable afternoon for the family. Now for discussions with Dave, part 2. Where does Ty Dillon land in 2027? We have been talking what Kaulig Racing's Cup Series stable is going to look like for 2027. Kaulig has said before that they are still going to hold both of their Cup Series charters. Yes, for them at the Cup Series, they still run Chevys, but as we know with their start of their Truck Series team with Ram, their days running Chevy at the Cup Series or the years are definitely limited. Chris Rice came on, I believe it was last week, on his spot with NASCAR Sirius XM, said the hardest thing for them right now is power in regards to the engines, and he mentioned that was one of the things that affected Ram and was why they stepped back out of the Cup Series years ago. Right now, they have AJ Allmendinger under contract. It's him and Ty Dillon filling out their 2 Cup Series seats, and last year that was the same pairing and not obviously AJ's first go around at the Cup Series. Believe he just ran his 500th career Cup Series race. By all means, AJ is taking one of 2 of those Cup Series rides. The question now points to Ty Dillon. There was a lot of questions that we were in this spot last year if Ty would return to Kaulig Racing. I've heard rumors that, Ty Dillon, obviously grandson of Richard Childress. The move was strictly to secure Kaulig the RCR power from ECR, right? That Kaulig Childress partnership at the end of last year split up, but Kaulig still kept Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon obviously had his big shining star of last year was his run through the bracket tournament. 32nd seed, goes to the championship, beats the number 1 seed, Denny Hamlin, in week 1. He does lose the championship to Ty Gibbs, but some of his partners and some of the ones he gained, I really think that was really imperative for him to be in the seat for this year. And if you look at Kaulig's Truck Series stable, you got the younger guys, the rookies, Brendan Queen, Minnie Tyrell. Then you got veterans such as Corey LaJoie and Justin Haley. In all honesty, if I'm Kaulig Racing, and I think Ty Dillon is going to be a team player, no offense to Ty, but just the way that the openings at the Cup Series level are for going in from 2026 to 2027, they are limited. We know there's going to be several doors opening at the end of 2027 going into 2028. But say if you swap Haley and Ty Dillon, you have Haley run the Cup Series and put Ty in one of the trucks. We've seen Ty overperform in Rackley War Racing Equipment. Yes, that they're a great team, and Dawson Sutton puts great runs with that team, and we see them overperform at the super speedways. Putting Ty in that truck, another veteran face, I think is just going to improve and better that program. And Justin Haley was really, I wouldn't say he was running well. He did lose his Cup Series seat, at Spire after Spire trades from Rick Ware with him. And we've seen Justin run the Cup Series schedule with Kaulig in the past. Haley, with the combinations and the circumstance, was dealt a little bit of a difficult hand. And of course, he's still running in the Cup Series, and that's a great opportunity that any driver could have, right? But the cards just didn't sit right for Haley at Spire, and he gets the boot and lands at Kaulig in a truck for 2026. And great rebound, plays, great season for him to regroup. But if I'm Kaulig, I'm going to have AJ Allmendinger and Justin Haley filling out my Cup Series roster, and I'm going to keep Ty Dillon. I'm assuming that Ty Dillon isn't going to have a better opportunity than a Kaulig truck. So my thoughts on that are, moving right along, a neat thing that the Atlanta Cup Series winner is going to take home, plus the trophy, is a 250 Years of Freedom Edition custom Harley-Davidson motorcycle. NASCAR Racing, Atlanta Motor Speedway. Of course, our nation just celebrating the 250 years of freedom, bringing it in with the 4th of July. We're celebrating that throughout this NASCAR season, of course. And excuse my language, but that's just badass. A 250 years of freedom, custom edition Harley, that is going to be tough. Who will go the extra distance trying to get the win in Atlanta for the bike? We'll find out. Wait till Sunday night. Last topic on discussions with Dave. Prime Video broadcast. We've talked about it, that the content of their broadcast compared to Fox and NBC is just better. We've gone over specifics, but NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell says not too fast for Prime to get more races, unfortunately, as he did reiterate that the NASCAR, how they broadcast the races, that is the current split is set through 2031. So that's not going to change anytime soon. He's gone on, we've got contractual obligations, yada, yada, yada. So I was hopeful that would change. And yes, I understand the argument with the streaming and whatnot. But the content that Amazon Prime is putting out is better than Fox. And from this year, last year, and Amazon has gotten better. Of course, sponsorships and commercials play, factors in everything, right? And that keeps the sport going. And you have to understand that. But nonetheless, Steve O'Donnell says, hey, we're going to keep, our contractual obligations and run it like this through 2031. And that wraps up this episode's edition of Discussions with Dave. And now for our guest driver of the episode, and that is Ben Maier. He'll be running at Lime Rock this Saturday in the Truck Series. Here's what Ben had to say. This guest we bring on the Splash of Gas will be driving the 42 Chevy for Nice Motorsports out in Lime Rock this Saturday. It's Ben Maier. Welcome to the show, Ben. Appreciate you joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. Super excited for this weekend.
Yeah, of course. Before we get into the recent and upcoming action, you're from Chester, Maryland. Start racing at a young age. What was that like for you?
At a young age, I didn't really know what racing was until my dad brought me to the go-kart track when I was 3 years old, and I just had a love for it ever since. We kept on racing go-karts till I was about 10, and then moved into car stuff, did some micro sprints, Legends cars, and just kept on moving up from there. Eventually made it to trucks, and this will be my fourth start in trucks. So super excited to get this one under my belt.
Yeah, for sure. Great to see you run in St. Petersburg earlier this year. When started to hear your name a few years ago. I'm a huge fan of late model racing. When was looking into your background, didn't realize the wide variety of range of cars and trucks that you grew up racing. How do you think that wide range of different series and cars that you're racing has helped you improve that as a driver throughout the years?
Just knowing all the different surfaces helped a lot, and being able to control the car on dirt and asphalt and on rally courses and stuff like that. It's been pretty cool to learn all of it. It helps me learn stuff quicker. When I have to go and figure out a new car on a new track, I get to be able to learn stuff quicker, or learn how to learn stuff quicker. And I don't know, it's just really cool. We mostly did some of the nitro cross stuff and stadium super truck stuff for as much exposure as we could to get in front of sponsors, but it's also definitely has helped me in my racing skill.
Awesome. Appreciate touching upon that, and great to see you run that different stuff, and great exposure, and that's good that you can adapt so quickly. And last year in 2025 was a big year for you, running the full Cars Tour Pro Late Model Tour, 13 race season. Before we get into the season finale in Wilkesboro, 1 pole, 7 top 5s, 10 top 10s. What was it like working with that team for a full season and executing, being consistent throughout the year?
Yeah, it was really good. I ended up getting 5 poles or something. Qualified up front a lot. Was super fast all year. But I would always end up wrecking or something when I was leading, and something would happen. There was a lot of unfortunate circumstances, but it was still a great season. We were super consistent, ran up front. We were really fast all year. But yeah, I really enjoyed it with them. They're great people, and it was a really good season for us.
Awesome. Yeah, and just like you said, ended with you winning the points championship in North Wilkesboro at the end of the year. It's a really awesome track. Was there last year? What was it like to secure the championship at the end of last year?
Oh, it was pretty cool. It's my first time in late models. Last year was, so I won my first race last year at Cordeal in a pro late model ever, and then it was pretty cool to win the championship. I didn't have much experience going into late models for that, so I didn't quite know how big of a deal it was. But it's still really cool to be able to win the championship and secure it.
For sure, was must have been an exciting experience for you. Also, last year you make your debut at 16 years old on the Truck Series, running the O2 with Young Motorsports out in Connecticut at Lime Rock. 100-lap race there. 2 of the laps you were the fastest guy out there. What was like the whole experience for you and coming home with a P18 finish in your first truck race?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I feel like super good experience. Trying to figure out the trucks. It was, like you said, it was my first start, so we were still trying to figure out the trucks, and I don't know, we weren't exactly where we needed to be, but I think it was definitely a good experience, and I also learned a little bit about Lime Rock and have some experience on Lime Rock going into this next race, so super excited and think it should be a really good race this weekend.
Awesome. And then to wrap up the 2025 season on the truck side, you run the Roval. I mean, 2025 as a whole, you run in various different series. I mean, how would you sum up your 2025 season?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I won the championship, so I'm super excited about that. It was let me think about this. Sorry. Yeah, it was a really good season. I'm super excited to have been able to win the championship. And we did some TA2 stuff here and there. It's all just building on how much skill I have and experience I have in driving as much as I can. So we did a bunch of late model stuff and Trans Am, had my first couple truck starts. But yeah, it was a really good season. I'm super thankful I did it. And this year, I'm hoping is going to be even better, even though it's pretty much almost halfway over. But we're pushing along and figuring it out as we go.
Gotcha. Appreciate to see where you're thinking and moving on to this year. You've also been running races on the Trans Am Tour. Winning it in the past. As an onlooker, I can see how that could obviously help you out on the road courses. What's like that experience been for you?
I like TA2 cars the most. TA2 cars are definitely the most fun I have driving. They're just super raw and really cool to drive, very fast as well. But yeah, I think it definitely also gives you really good experience on road courses. That's what I grew up doing my whole life, so I'm pretty comfortable on those. I think I can work on the oval stuff a little more, but I've gotten that down pretty well. So yeah, we're figuring it out as we go.
Got it. And just like you were mentioning, going to the different cars, it's really cool. You mentioned kind of a road course background, and you're having success on the oval in the late model stuff. So appreciate you going over that. And what was announced earlier this year to be running, several truck races with Nice this year. A lot of young talent in that building. What's it been like for you to work with your teammates and everyone at Nice? And have you been to that little dirt track out back there?
Yeah, I have. I've ran it before. I don't always make it, but I've definitely ran the track before. It's super cool back there, and I don't know. I like being around all my teammates at Nice. They're all really cool guys, and I hope the best for them in the future as well.
Heck yeah. Appreciate you going over that. And you start the year off in St. Petersburg, first time the trucks ever run there. You're second in practice. Unfortunately, qualifying gets rained out, and you start from the rear. Slowly work your way up. 19th in the first stage, 13th in the second. Come home with a P11 finish, your best finish in your 3 truck starts at that point. How was it out there? Seemed like the 4 was fast.
Yeah, it was good. I think we weren't exactly where we needed to be. I was a little tight in the center and a little free off, so I think we could have been a little better. And then, obviously, I think there was a couple things that I could have done as well in the race to maybe get a few more positions. But I think we need to be a little better to go and win the race. It was still a really good experience, and it was a super cool track. I love doing the race. I think we were really fast, thanks to Mike Shiplett and the guys working on the car as hard as they could. But Yeah, I really wish we got to qualify because then we might have had a chance to go and win the thing because we were second in practice. But yeah, it's I still think it was a great race and super good experience. It's just we didn't get exactly the result we wanted.
Got it. Appreciate the honesty there. Mentioned going back to Lime Rock for the second time, and you'll be in the 42. We saw how fast Tyler was out in San Diego. I'm assuming you're feeling pretty good going to Lime Rock this Saturday.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling really good. I think it should be a really good race. I got Landon Poletsky this weekend as my crew chief, so it should be really good. Hopefully we gonna have to make very minor setup changes, but we'll see how that goes. And then if that's good, then I just have to do my job and qualify well and stay up front the whole race and just have good track position. Lime Rock's really hard to pass at, so being up front the whole race is very important there.
Got to execute. And yeah, that really leads into my next question. I was out at Lime Rock last year, and it seems like a fun road course, but besides that, the straightaway on the restarts going into the right-hander, I mean, it seems very difficult to pass out there. I mean, how do you expect the racing to be up front? Hopefully, if you can get the 42 up there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be – I certainly think that Lime Rock is a very fun track to drive on. It's probably one of the most fun tracks to drive on. It's just since it is so narrow and it's mostly high speed turns, you need to move people in some of the lower speed stuff to pass them. That's one of your only chances. And in the high speed stuff, there's not really a chance, but it's a really fun track to drive on. It's just so hard to pass there that the racing isn't quite as good as I think it could be.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, just like we saw last year, Heim wins from green to checkered out there. So, totally agree with that. And I mean, for the rest of this year, what are really your goals as a driver?
I want to finish as good as I can in the next couple of truck races, and prove myself, and hopefully by next year I have a lot more and can race a bunch of truck races. We just need to find as much sponsorship as we can. That's the biggest problem right now, but yeah, we'll see, and I hope I can finish as good as I can in the next couple, and then obviously improve when I do the late models and TA2 and stuff like that, and get more experience behind the wheel.
Awesome. Appreciate you going over that. And last question, really an off-track one. I mean, you're running you're a full-time racer. I mean, you're still 17 years old. I mean, how do you balance school well with a full-time racing schedule?
I do online school, so I can pretty much do it wherever I am in the moment. And it makes it pretty easy actually. So I don't have to go in anywhere or do anything. I can just sit in my room if I need to, or sit in the car, or wherever I am. I can pop out my computer real quick and do some school when I have a little bit of free time.
Gotcha. Appreciate you going over that, and best of luck this weekend, Ben. Really appreciate the time and breaking down from the late model stuff into the trucks. And best of luck this weekend. We'll be pulling for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one, man.
You too.
Great to talk to Ben. Now for Tire Diaries, Lime Rock, and Atlanta. The NASCAR Cup Series will run the same Goodyear Racing Eagle tire setup that they ran in the end of February at Atlanta. This tire setup is unique to Atlanta and features a right side tire that was introduced in February's race. On the O'Reilly side, Goodyear will introduce an updated right side tire. This new tire features an updated construction with the same compound as before and will pair with the left side tire that was raced in Atlanta since 2022. Now for Lime Rock with the trucks. Lime Rock is the fourth and final road course of the season for the trucks. The series last ran the current 15-inch Goodyear Racing Eagles road course setup at San Diego last month, and they're going to run those same tires. For the trucks, they will have racing slicks, 5 sets, wet weather tires, 4 sets. Now, Atlanta, O'Reilly. 4 sets, 3 new for the race, 1 for qualifying that transfer to start the race. For Cup Series, same thing with the qualifying tires that transfer, 9 sets in total, 8 new sets for the race. Now the drivers to look out for, starting with Lime Rock for the ARCA Series. First, we start off with driver that won in ARCA out in Talladega. Great to see that the 71 will be back, Andy Jankowiak. 2 youngsters that have each gone to victory lane on road courses in the ARCA Series. Last year's Lime Rock winner, New Jersey native, Thomas Annunziata. Then Tristan McKee, who won last year out in Watkins Glen. 2 really top youngsters right there. Then you got Isabella Robusto. Jake Bowman, top Nitro cars. Also have some full-time Truck Series drivers jumping down in ARCA. Stort Friesen, the Canadian. As crazy as it sounds, this will be Stort's first ever ARCA Series race. Stort will be in the 17. And also Dawson Sutton typically runs the Rackley War truck, will be racing the 42. A road course ringer and Ryan Gemmel will be in this one. He was one of the drivers that was participating in the Ram Drive for a Seat with Colleague earlier this year. Great to see Ryan to get an opportunity like this. Now the drivers to look out for Truck Series race from Lime Rock. We'll start off with the top. And again, Thomas Annunziata last year won in ARCA, making his Truck Series debut with Tricon. 2 other Tricon teammates to look out for are Tanner Gray, then of course, Caden Honeycutt, who was victorious out in Watkins Glen in the trucks. Just talking about one of the favorites in Honeycutt, you gotta look towards Front Row Motorsports, Lane Riggs, Lane von Rigsbergen, as he calls himself now, racking up the road course wins. Can't forget about Chandler Smith, his teammate, too. Should be really quick. Ram with Colleague Racing is starting to make bigger strides and improvements, as I should say. They have road course ringer Colin Braun racing in their 25 truck. That should be one to look out for. We were just talking to one of the Nice Motorsports drivers, and Ben Maier. Look out for him, but also look out for Landon Lewis. He has been turning a lot of heads in that Nice 45 truck. Last but not least, and 2 veterans who have proved it on road courses in the Truck Series before, Ty Majeski in the 88, and of course, Ben Rhodes. Now the drivers to look out for Atlanta, starting with O'Reilly. We'll lead with 2 of the favorites, and that's the RCR cars. Austin Hill and Jesse Love. Those are 2 guys I'm going to be watching the whole night. Also, can't forget about Nick Sanchez. He was victorious in one of the Atlanta races last year. Nick, as we know, lost his full-time ride as AM Racing shuts down. Unfortunately, Nick will be in the 87 this go around. Can Nick get that Chevy to the front? I sure think so. Also, 2 O'Reilly cars to look out for that are really leaving their mark are those 2 Viking Motorsports cars, and that's led Anthony Alfredo and Parker Retzlaff, and that's led by the 99 of Retzlaff. Parker Retzlaff leads the O'Reilly Series right now with the most top 15 finishes, with 17. Jesse Love has 16. Can't go any farther now until we talk about Sheldon Creed, who won a nail-biter there in February. Also, those Joe Gibbs cars, they're going to be super quick. Brett Cruz, last week's winner, Brandon Jones as well. Of course, all the JRM cars are going to be firing off on all cylinders. Justin Allgaier, Sammy Smith, Jake Finch in the 9th. Good to see Jake back making an O'Reilly start. Also, Raja Caruth in the 88 should be quick as well. Now for the Cup Series drivers to look out for from Atlanta. We know how hot he was to start the year. Tyler Reddick. Atlanta was the second race on the Cup Series schedule after the 500. Reddick, as we know, went on to win that one. And as we said earlier in discussions with Dave, just throughout this year, the Toyotas have been dominant. The guy that finished second in Atlanta won last weekend in Chicagoland. That's none other, Chase Briscoe. Carson Hocevar has been up front. Him and Zane Smith tangle. Carson gets taken out. Carson has, the last several Atlanta races, has been there at the end and had opportunities to win. Look out for that 77. And we'll stay in the Spire stable. I've mentioned before, was at the 2023 February race, 3 wide, that was won by Daniel Suarez. It's the best finish I'll ever see in my life. I'm still holding to my guns on that. But Suarez and Hocevar, those Spire cars are going to be quick. Shane Van Gisbergen? Wait, Dave, they're not racing at a road course. Yes, aware of that. SVG finished 6th there in the spring. He's getting better on the ovals, but could Austin Hill take him out? Could be a viable option. Seems like there's a rivalry budding there. Can't forget about Georgia's own Chase Elliott. We've seen him pull off some late race wins in the past. Ryan Blaney should be leading the charge for Team Penske. Those RFK cars should be quick as well. Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher should be up top. For those 3 cars, maybe Brad Keselowski can make a splash into the top 15. He finished 13th in the spring, but that's not going to stop him, and he's had better finishes in Atlanta in the past. Denny Hamlin. Bubba Wallace, that 23. I think he's going to have a really good race Sunday night out in Atlanta. And last but not least, after an early end to his day, spinning from 3rd, can Kyle Larson get back into that hot streak of a top 5 finishes? We'll find out. Now for Fast Davey's bets. My gut reaction with him running a part-time schedule and seeing how strong those niche trucks have been at the road courses this year, I was going to say, let's see what the odds for Ben Maier are. And I forgot, Ben Maier's still 17, and you can't make bets with him, and shouldn't be trying to bet on young drivers like that. But after Fast Davey was thinking of first, nonetheless, ThorSport has been quick on these road courses. Yes, they might have not have the race wins that they've had in recent years compared to some past. With Ben Rhodes, so 21, he started off the year with the Daytona Road Course win at the second race of the year in the trucks. I think Jake Garcia grew up a short track guy. He's really starting to get these road courses down. He was having a really good day at Lime Rock last year before he got caught in a wreck. Top 5 for Jake Garcia right now is plus 700. If they have the qualifying, I think Jake Garcia can maybe qualify 8, 9, get into that top 5 by the end of the day. O'Reilly, Fast Davey's bets, Parker Retzlaff, a top 5 for Parker is plus 500. Parker was there in the mix with Creed last year. We're just talking about his top 15, not streak, but 17 of them this year. He's racking them up. I think Parker can get a top 5 finish Saturday night in Atlanta. Cup Series, Fast Davey's bets. Carson Hocevar, top 5 is plus 235. Think that's a good one. Now for trivia answer time. This episode's question is, NASCAR O'Reilly Series and Cup Series heads to Atlanta this upcoming weekend for the second time this season. NASCAR started racing out in Hampton, Georgia at AMS back in 1960. The first race there, July of 1960, was won by Fireball Roberts. NASCAR returned a few months later that season in October. Who won that second race in Atlanta in October of 1960? Answer is Bobby Johns. Now the predictions, starting ARCA Series, Lime Rock. Give me New Jersey native Thomas Annunziata going back to back, winning ARCA races at Lime Rock. Trucks, he's got 2 Truck Series road course wins under his belt this year. Lane, Van, Rigsbergen. Lane Riggs. Switching it to Atlanta now. O'Reilly, Austin Hill, all day, all night. Give me Hill. Cup Series in Atlanta, just like we see Daytona, Talladega. Yes, Atlanta's a mile and a half smaller than Daytona and Dega, right? But anything can happen out there. Anyone can win. We've seen how quick these Toyotas have been. Give me Bubba Wallace to get the win Sunday night out at AMS. As always, we're sponsored by Magical Travel with Dave, aka Disney Dave Weichert, my father. He will be able to help you with all your Disney and Universal vacation needs. He can be reached at DisneyDaveW@Verizon.net. Please make sure you follow all the Splash of Gas social medias for midweek and on-track updates. Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube are all Splash of Gas with Dave Weichert. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Till next time, everybody. Splash of Gas out.